Hi, I'm Kirsten Anderberg. We're going to call this series the Food Storage 101. We will cover several different topics over the next couple of months on this video series. Today we're going to talk about freeze-dried foods versus dehydrated foods and how to choose which one is better for your situation. First, let's talk about reconstitution of freeze-dried items versus dehydrated items. Because the molecules are left open on a freeze-dried item, it stays pretty close to the same size it was before the water was removed. So freeze-dried foods reconstitute approximately 2 to 3 times the weight of what is in the can. However, because dehydrated items shrink to less than 1/4 the size of the original item, they reconstitute 6 to 8 times what is in the can. Most of us have seen the small in-home dehydrators that are sold on those paid commercials that we see on TV on Saturday and late night. Dehydrating food in our business is done pretty much the same way. Fresh foods are put into a very large dehydrator and approximately 98% of the water is removed from the foods. To freeze-dry foods, the fresh foods are flash frozen and put into a large vacuum chamber where 98% of the water is drawn off of the food and the ice is evaporated at temperatures as low as 50 degrees. Now let's look at the difference between freeze-dried foods and dehydrated foods. For purposes of an example, let's look at apples. First, here is a freeze-dried apple slice. And here is a dehydrated apple slice. There's an obvious difference in the look, but the taste is pretty much the same. Second, the nutritional values are pretty much the same. Reconstituting a freeze-dried item is a little bit faster because molecules are left open so the water can get into them faster. But it takes more water to cover a freeze-dried item than a dehydrated food because dehydrated foods have shrunk. Now let's look at the cost difference. A can of freeze-dried apples is $22 and holds a half a pound of apples. And reconstituted it would hold about 2 pounds of apples. That brings the cost to $11 per pound. Now a can of dehydrated apples is $15.99 and holds a pound and a half of apples. Reconstituted, the dehydrated can of apples would be 9 pounds of apples, bringing the cost of the dehydrated can of apples to $1.78 per pound. Next, there are only some foods that are freeze-dried, mostly fruits and vegetables and some meats. However, freeze-dried meats have become more difficult to get and more expensive because our suppliers have been given military contracts to supply for the troops. Mountain House does have some prepackaged meals that are like scrambled eggs and bacon. They're already cooked and freeze-dried, but the shelf life on these items is shorter. Again, dairy products having a shorter shelf life. The shelf life for most freeze-dried items is up to, freeze-dried and dehydrated items, is up to 30 years with the exception of dairy products, yeast, spices, and flour. Dairy products have a shelf life of 5 to 7 years. Yeast has a shelf life of 1 to 2 years depending on how cold you keep it, and spices have a shelf life of 3 to 5 years. Flour has a shelf life of about 3 years. And when these types of foods expired, they're not ruined, their nutritional value does begin to lose some nutrition. And flour loses its rising properties. So it's not that it's gone bad, you could still use it for flatbreads. And yeast just won't rise. All of our 1-year supply packages are a combination of freeze-dried and dehydrated foods. Feel free to give us a call at 1-888-814-0289 if you have any questions, and one of our representatives will be happy to help you. Or you can visit us at www.yourfoodstorage.com.